The baby was born under a sky that burned red. Thunder rolled, though no storm followed, and the midwife crossed herself 3 times before daring to hold him. She whispered that the child bore a mark of destiny, a tiny crescent scar upon his chest, glowing faintly as if the heavens themselves had branded him. His mother, pale from the pain of birth, clutched the infant and wept with joy. His father, a poor woodcutter, simply stared, half in awe, half in fear. "Remember my words," the midwife said, her hands trembling. "This boy is meant to marry the king's daughter, or to die by the king's hand." The prophecy spread like fire through the village. When it reached the ears of the king, he felt something colder than dread settle in his chest. He had one daughter, his only child, his treasure. No nameless peasant's son would ever be her husband. The king swore the infant would not live to see his destiny fulfilled. But fate, as the old say, has sharper teeth than any man's will. Rising conflict. The king sent soldiers to steal the newborn under the cover of night. They carried the crying bundle deep into the forest, meaning to bury him where the wolves roamed. Yet when they lowered the child to the ground, a figure appeared from the trees, an old woman cloaked in tattered black. Her eyes gleamed like coals, and the soldiers, brave as they were, felt their blood run cold. "You will not harm him," she hissed, her voice carrying an authority that froze their limbs. "He belongs to destiny. Leave him." They fled, abandoning the child at her feet. The old woman scooped him up, muttering words that smelled of fire and smoke, then carried him away. The boy, named Elias, grew under her care. She taught him to listen to the whispers of rivers, to read omens in the flight of crows, and to recognize the hunger of men's hearts. Though she was not his mother, Elias loved her, and she, in her way, loved him back. Still, he often dreamed of parents he did not know, and of a golden palace shining on the horizon. When Elias reached 16, the old woman revealed the truth. "The king fears you. He has tried to kill you since the day you were born. And yet, his daughter is tied to your fate. To win her, you must do what no mortal has dared, steal 3 golden hairs from the devil himself." Elias's heart hammered at the words. He had always sensed he was meant for more than the quiet of the forest, but this? The devil? Still, he could not turn away. "Tell me how," he demanded. She only shook her head. "No one can guide you. You must learn by walking into fire, or you will never return at all. The journey begins." Elias set out with nothing but a knife, a pouch of bread, and the scar that still burned faintly on his chest. On the first day, he came to a town where the fountain had dried. The people begged for water, their lips cracked and bleeding. A guard stopped him. "Stranger, if you find the reason our fountain is cursed, the king of this land will reward you beyond measure." Elias promised he would try, though he knew nothing yet of curses. On the second day, he reached another city, where a dying tree stretched its skeletal branches toward the sky. Its roots had fed generations, but now they were blackened. The townsfolk wept. "Find out why our tree withers, and we will bless you forever," they pleaded. Again Elias agreed. On the third day, he came to a river whose ferryman rowed endlessly back and forth, his face gray with exhaustion. The man called out, "Boy, if you meet anyone who can tell me how to be freed of this torment, ask for me." Elias nodded, though each new burden weighed heavier on his heart. He wondered if he was a fool to carry problems that were not his own. Still, he walked on, guided by something he could not name, perhaps destiny itself. Into darkness. At last, he reached the edge of a wasteland, where the air burned like coal smoke and the ground split with cracks that glowed red. Here stood the gate to the devil's realm. A great horned sentinel barred his way. "What do you seek, mortal?" the demon growled. "I seek 3 hairs from the devil's head," Elias said, surprising even himself with his boldness. The demon roared with laughter. "No one has ever returned alive from such madness. Yet, your courage entertains me. If you bring answers to 3 riddles, I will not devour you." First, why does the fountain not flow? Second, why does the tree not bear fruit? Third, how can the ferryman end his endless task? Elias's chest tightened. The questions mirrored those he carried. Perhaps fate was weaving threads he did not yet see. He bowed and stepped forward. Inside the devil's realm, shadows twisted into faces that sneered and whispered. He crossed a hall lined with skulls, and at the end, upon a throne of ash, sat the devil himself. His skin was black as obsidian, his eyes pits of flame, and 3 golden hairs glowed like molten sunlight against his brow. "Well, well," the devil said, his voice silk over steel. "A mortal dares come for my treasure. Tell me, boy, why should I not grind your bones?" Elias's knees shook, but he forced his voice steady. "Because destiny brought me. Because your golden hairs belong not to you, but to the path I must walk." The devil studied him, then smiled with cruel amusement. "Then you may try. But you will pay for each hair with a truth of your own." The 3 hairs. The devil leaned close, plucking the first hair from his head with a hiss of pain. He tossed it to Elias. "Now speak. Why has the fountain dried?" Elias's chest burned with the scar, and words poured from him unbidden, because a serpent sleeps beneath its stone. "Unless it is slain, the waters will never run." The devil chuckled, impressed. He tore the second hair free, his laughter shaking the walls. "Why does the tree wither?" Again, Elias felt the answer rise within him, because a worm gnaws its roots. If the worm dies, the tree will live. The devil narrowed his eyes, sensing something greater at work. At last, with a roar that cracked the air, he yanked the final golden hair from his head. Flames erupted around him as he snarled, "Then tell me, how may the ferryman be freed?" Elias gasped, his vision swimming, then whispered, "By giving his or into another's hands. Only then will he walk free." For a moment, the devil stared, and Elias thought he would be torn apart. But then the creature threw back his head and laughed, the sound like iron on stone. "You are bold, mortal. Too bold to be crushed. Take the hairs, and may they burn your hands with destiny." And with a wave of his claw, Elias was hurled back into the mortal world. Return and revelation. Elias staggered through the lands he had crossed. At the fountain, he revealed the serpent's curse. The people slew it, and water burst forth, clear and sweet. They loaded Elias with treasure. At the tree, he named the worm, and when it was cut down, the branches blossomed with fruit. They blessed him, calling him Savior. At the river, he told the ferryman the truth. The man smiled through tears, pressed the oar into Elias's hands, and stepped onto land for the first time in centuries. Elias quickly passed the oar to another foolhardy traveler, sparing himself the same fate. By the time he reached the king's palace, his name was already legend. Yet the king's heart twisted with fury, for here stood the boy he had once ordered slain, alive, strong, and bearing gifts no man could imagine. The princess, however, looked at Elias with eyes full of wonder. She had dreamt of him, though she had never known his face. Something in her soul whispered that this was not chance but destiny. The king, desperate, demanded proof of Elias's worth. "What do you bring me, peasant?" Elias laid the 3 golden hairs upon the floor. Their light filled the hall, and none could look away. Conclusion. The king could not deny what shone before him. The people cheered Elias as a hero, and the princess placed her hand in his. Though the king's heart boiled, he dared not defy destiny further, for he feared its wrath more than he hated the boy. Elias married the princess, and the prophecy was fulfilled. Yet as he stood beside her, he felt a shiver run through him. For though he had taken the devil's hairs, he also carried the devil's laughter in his ears, a reminder that fate never gives without also taking. And sometimes, what burns brightest leaves the deepest shadows behind.